Good day gamers, my name is Jasper, your friendly gaming guru. We're now here at Back to Games Al Mall for us to meet the designer of this wonderful board game, Conqueror Final Conquest. Dropping yourself in the middle of the power struggle between the superpowers of ancient history is your duty to command your nation to victory and glory and cement yourself in history for ages to come. Let's now dive in and let's get straight into it.
So my name is Mohamed Al Qadi. I'm the designer of the first ever Emirati board game, strategy board game, called Conqueror Final Conquest. And for those of you who like strategy games, for those of you who like war games, think of this as an authentic experience. You feel like you are a general in the 3rd century BC, commanding your armies, trying to control the Mediterranean against so many different enemies. The really cool thing about this game is just how authentic it is, and I cannot stress this enough. From the artwork to the gameplay to the characters to the story to the rules, everything makes sense. Everything mimics reality. So if you are a fan of history, ancient history, if you like a video game like Total War, if you like a gateway war game and a gateway strategy game, which is exactly what this is. Not too complex to understand, but a lot of fun and a lot of depth and a lot of strategic complexity. And this is the game for you. And remember, this is I would say this is a limited edition, because if you think about it, this is the first ever. I mean, imagine how valuable this game will be in a few years' time. The first ever strategy board game made in the UAE by a person here. And it's actually fantastic. It plays really well, at least that's what people tell me. I love playing it as well, but I'm kind of approaching the limit here where I want to play another board game. I've been playing it for 6 months now, endlessly. But it's still a really cool game to buy and to purchase. We're gonna be at Back to Games this Friday from 3 o'clock to about 6 o'clock. Make your way down here in Abu Dhabi Wahda Mall. We're going to show you how to play the game. So imagine, I don't think this has ever happened before here in Back to Games, where the designer of a game is actually here to teach you the game, right?
Yes,
first time ever. That's the advantage of having a local designer. I'll teach you all the tricks, I'll teach you how to play the game, I'll be able to answer any questions you might have. You don't have to argue with your friends about what the rules are. And you'll learn all about it. And if you get a copy, I can sign it for you if that's what you'd like. You can come and chat to me if you're developing your own game. I mean, it's a good way to get to know all of you. I think I've met many of you, but it's a good way to meet all of you, and I look forward to it. So remember, Friday, what is it, January 24th?
24th for Abu Dhabi.
For Abu Dhabi from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And then Dubai will be the 31st of January on Friday again. Monitor the Back to Games social channels on Instagram. Follow us as well, Cation Arts, and you'll get a lot of more news. So I think you have a lot of questions to us, so please shoot them through.
Yes. Well, what an amazing introduction. First off, Mohammed. Yeah, because the thing is, like, as you said, what you call this, Conqueror. It's actually the first ever locally made board game, and there's not a lot of that here. We have localized games, but those are like imported. Right. So knowing that you are like the first ever to do that, like, I'm just wondering, like, for the first time people that sees this, right? How did it come to be?
Sure.
Like, what was like your inspiration, and how did you get to this point?
I'll say 2 things. One is, my inspiration was, I had a vision. I had an idea of what a board game should look like. I had a vision of someone who's so passionate about history and so passionate about military strategy and strategies in general, and have read every single time period possible of every single culture, and has a lot of military strategy books. I just felt like I had a vision for a game that was unique and different. Something that, as I said, mimics reality, that's authentic in every conceivable fashion. but at the same time wasn't so difficult to learn. And I think that's the balance that I was trying to hit, that I believe is unique about this game. And then I just did it. I mean, the biggest advice I get people is, if you're passionate about something and you want to do something, stop thinking about it, stop talking about it, just put your pencil down, put your head down, scribble a few ideas, bring a board game from your garage, draw over it, start making up rules, play it with your friends, and eventually you'll get to a place, hopefully, that you know, you wanted to get to, whether it's something you're selling or something you're playing at home. I'd like to say another thing.
Right.
I don't want you guys to think of this game and me as the first Emirati strategy game. That's an honor, don't get me wrong, but that's not enough for you to buy the game. I want to say that this is a game that will compete with and be better than most strategy games out there. That's why you should buy it. It's not because it's the first Emirati strategy game, it's because it's a really good game, and I can vouch for that.
Nice. All right, cool, awesome. Well, so just going over like a couple of things, right? Honestly speaking, of course, like creating a board game isn't hard.
Yes.
That's like an apparent thing, right? Even though that there's like almost like 2,000 plus titles just here on Back to Games alone, getting into the market might be a little bit hard at this point in time.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, like, what have been the difficulties that you've encountered, in getting this game done, getting it published, and pushing it to the market? Just can ask for your
So when I first started designing a game, people told me that 3 to 5% of the revenues are given to the designer, and the publisher gets 95%. I said, wait, that's so unfair. Why would I want to sell my idea to a publisher? Let me set up my own publishing company. Let me tell you something. That 5% is generous, because a publisher does so much. The manufacturing is a nightmare. The artwork is a beautiful experience, but it takes so long to do. You know, the marketing, the logistics, the delivery, you know, dealing with, you know, meeting every retail store, meeting the distributors, and especially if you don't want to just sell in the UAE. This game is right now being sold in 20 countries worldwide. And as such, it is very important for you to be able to expand and speak to so many people and influencers and reviewers. So, you know, it does, like, I think the challenge here is, what people don't realize is how much work goes into a board game, and it's not a high profit business, right? I'm not doing this for the money. Definitely isn't. You know, you're usually happy if you've made a small return that can help you start your next project. And that's why, you know, I hope that people out there, even if you have a couple of strategy games at home, maybe you aren't planning to buy a new game this month, I really do hope that you go out there and purchase one, because it does mean a lot to the designer. Every single purchase puts a smile on my face, because not only do I know that it's been successful and people are appreciating it, but more importantly, I get to see people play it, enjoy it, scream, shout, laugh, and that's what makes your day. I would lose money on every board game to see that emotion in people. So I hope you get to experience it too.
Nice, amazing. Well, that's actually really nice. But more so to the people out there that are also like planning to be, you know, to have their own game, get their game done, or probably just have ideas on their own. That's just brewing there, you know, a catalyst at least to get them going.
Sure.
But it isn't hard. But I mean, it is hard. But now that you're here, it's like you're a testament that it is possible, and it is actually you know, like a thing that you can actually do. And
if you need any feedback or advice, I'm always here. Whenever I'm available, I can just drop me an email. I'll respond eventually. You know, if I'm at a store, come and talk to me, especially at one of those events like Back to Games. Would love to be here and help you out. And, you know, in the future, if this game is a success, this is why I believe that the UAE has, every single board gamer in the UAE, every would-be designer, has this incentive to buy this game. And the reason why is because if this game is successful, it'll just open the floodgates. You'll get more designers here, you'll get more people believing in themselves, you get more people like Back to Games who will back local projects. So it'll just really open the market. And Back to Games have been so helpful. I mean, I cannot imagine what I would do without them in every single step of the way, especially, you know, working with the owner Mark, and which I'm sure all of you know or have heard of. You know, my biggest advice is just support each other. That's what a board game group is about. Even if you don't buy it and you play it, go to Board Game Geek, create it, tell your friends about it. Everything you can do helps. Post it on your social media. You know, everything you can do really, really helps in every single way. Thank you all for your support. It's been amazing. As Jasper here mentioned, I mean, we've sold, even on pre-sales, we've sold hundreds of copies around the world. So we're just willing to see more people in the UAE enjoying it and learning it. And by the way, I just want to say something.
Go ahead.
I don't know the date yet, but I can promise you there will be a competition this year, and there will be a prize money. So start practicing, and you should you know, you should get some advice. There are a couple of YouTube videos that we have on that tell you about certain strategies you can employ. It might be a good thing to check them out.
Nice. There's still like a couple of questions in my mind that I'm meaning to ask.
Sure.
Going back to the idea of like game design, your game philosophies that you said that you're trying to keep it on the authentic side as much as possible, which I can see that you were able to achieve.
Yes.
But going to the other side of the coin, like now that you have your game, now that you have the game on the tables, being played, getting out there, you know, the word is out there. Now that you've seen it, what do you think? This is just a personal opinion of yours, and I'm just wondering. What do you think were the things that you think you kinda lacked?
Yes, of course. I mean, you can always improve your product.
Yes.
So I think a couple of things. I think if I had the chance to simplify the rules even more, to make it even more accessible to a non-board gamer, you know, just someone who's played Monopoly and that's it. I would have loved to do that even further if I had more time. I think there were 2 or 3 typos that I saw in the game that drive me crazy. I wish that I reviewed before. There's even small stuff. So when you get the box, the cards are, there are hero cards. So every faction has their heroes. And they weren't organized where all 4 hero cards are together. It's something small, but
small things,
I know the next print
yeah.
I'll just avoid it. Or like the meeples, like I asked the factory to put every color on its own, and they ended up putting every units on their own. So when you first buy it, you just have to separate the colors, which is a little annoying. There are a couple of stuff that bother me there. In terms of the rules, I'm really happy with it. I think most people are happy with it. If I wanted to add one rule in the future for an expansion, it definitely would be that if you've hit 10 rounds and for some reason the game is not over, then there's a time limit. So most games are about an hour on average. 6-player games can drag to 2 hours, and I know that some people, when they're playing as 6 players, you know, something might happen. Someone might give you a call. You might want to end the game sooner than expected. So giving the opportunity for people to finish the game a little bit earlier is always a positive as an option. It could even be an optional rule.
Nice. So are we hinting an expansion in the future?
Of course. So I want to tell you what my expansions are. So there will definitely be an expansion to Conqueror, but we also want to create a, I don't know if it's called an expansion or a different version, where we tackle a different time period for Conqueror, and perhaps a time period that's closer to home. That's all I'm letting on for now. Closer to our history, it's closer to our region. So definitely that. We also have 2 more board games that are coming up. We have a climate change game that's a very light, fun-hearted game that we'll talk about later, and it's coming out in September, inshallah. And then there's a game that I'm still working on that's gonna be a space game. So that's perhaps in 2021. So you know, wait for it. We're not here for one game. We're a publisher. We're invested in the UAE. If you support us, we're gonna knock out more and more hits. And any feedback you guys might have, let us know. By the way, there's a frequently asked questions on our website that explains some of the rules that you may not understand if you're watching the video or the manual or something that comes to mind. So make sure you check them out when you're learning the game as well.
Cool. Actually, that's all the time that we have for now. Thank you.
Thank you
very much,
Appreciate
Mohamed, for coming by.